Good evening, everyone, and welcome to day 506, July the 14th. Continuing coverage, care, updates on the war in Ukraine. Today, we've got a lot to cover. Currently, right this very minute, pretty large explosions are happening in Mykolaiv, in Kherson, and in Dnipro. Shaheeds and the lookout for Caliber-class missiles coming out of the south, the Black Sea area. But we shall see tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part. We ask you to like, share this, comment, subscribe, donate, everything. You guys know we do everything possible to help, support, care for. Tonight, Zhenya is out. He is at the refugee camp. Part of what you guys going to support the refugee camp. We also support civilians on the front lines, military, everything. But Zhenya tonight down at the camp. Got about 50 refugee kids, no homes. They've lost parents in the war. They're the children of soldiers, and they are beginning their summer camp. So you guys have made that happen, and tonight we want to say thank you. So let's get going tonight. This is the front line. To be quite honest, over the last 48 hours, the front lines haven't moved at all. The battles are ongoing. I'll zoom in here. As I was telling you guys earlier, there are explosions happening right this very minute in Mykolaiv, also in the city of Kherson. Of course, these are daily events, but pretty significant ones. As far as the front lines will come up from Kherson, this is the gold representing Russian pushes. The line here along the river Dnipro, not changing. Ukraine pushing here below Orikhiv. Russia continues to shell this city, and we work there personally. We've shown you that on previous updates. Ukraine pushing here. Russia in the golds. Good pushes here in the Veliki Novosilko region below that. That continues. Russia is trying to push back on some of those gains of Ukraine. To be quite honest, here in the east around Avdiivka, nothing has really changed. They're just fighting every day. And then we come up into the Bakhmut regions, and this is the place where Russia has given up the most gains. Ukraine has gained the most territory here on this southern line below Bakhmut and the northern line. Once again, Bakhmut, the city itself and proper, still completely under the control of Russia, and Russia has pushed back here a little bit just to the east of Ivanivsky. North up here, Russia pushing back on some of these gains that were happening in the Siversk region, Siversk being here. Up on the north, this is really the hard pushes of Russia, and we just have about the same from the last 48 hours update. So that's where we're at on the front line activity. Let me hit the right buttons here. Additionally, Ukraine is experiencing Shaheed attacks every night. In fact, last night in Kyiv, Shaheeds came in. They were shot down, all of them. But the debris falls and it hits. But Russia is using, we're in the summertime. It gets very hot. It gets very humid in Ukraine. So thunderstorms brew. And Russia is using the thunderstorms as a cover for the drones to fly through and to hope to get them through the air defenses that Ukraine has in place. Of course, the picture you're seeing there is a picture of Ukraine. You can see the statue to the motherland. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. I've got news on that is very important. And you can see the electrical storm there over Kyiv. This is what Russia is using as a cover for their attacks. Now, this last night in Kyiv, please understand, the drone was shot down. It was taken out, but then the debris comes to the ground. It actually deflected, came into this apartment building. I have this here. You can see this is the actual outside of that apartment building. I believe it was on the 25th floor. If you look up, top floor there, you can see where the strike took place. Unfortunately, a man here lost his life. You can see just a beautiful apartment. Everything's sitting as normal. And this helps you understand many times why people are concerned, because randomly these things can hit anywhere in the country. If it's flying over the head and it gets shot down, or it hits the target, it can hit anywhere. And many people do not understand that even though these things are shot out of the air, if they're not destroyed in the air, they're coming down to the ground and they're going to explode. It's very, very dangerous. All throughout Ukraine, everywhere has a possibility of being struck. And of course, this is the reason Zhenya's small children, babies, are out of the country, because anything can happen. Zhenya actually lives on the 16th floor, the top floor of a building there in the city of Khmelnytsky. So that's what's happening in Kyiv and other cities. Right now, Mykolaiv in Dnipro, that's what's happening there as we're speaking. I want to jump on the story of NATO now. This was actually a cartoon that was put out in British newspapers, and it says, "Welcome to NATO." See the big NATO there, and you see Zelensky looking up. This was from July the 13th, the NATO logo. And what do you have? Zelensky looking at the letters N-O in the word NATO. Earlier I made, a year ago, NATO stands for no army to offer. And we're thankful for the weapons, but we're going to get into that much more here in just a moment. The big no, that's what we're looking at. With that said, no, Ukraine will not be in NATO before this war's over. Period. Never going to happen. Unfortunately, this emboldens Russia to continue the war. It's a fact. Now, with that said, even though they are not coming into NATO, we are very thankful because right here, United States, Germany, these are just some pictures. Patriots, HIMARS, Bradleys, Strikers, different types of munitions. If you look down at Germany, you have different types of tanks and munitions. Also, not only the Leopards, but you have Patriots coming in from Germany. Other nations, you have Norvegia, which is Norway, Velika Britannia, which is Great Britain, Australia, France, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Canada, and many other nations. Ukraine is grateful. And other nations, mine included, are supplying weapons. We're thankful for that. But with no real security guarantees, forget them. They're not real. Because if they were real, Ukraine would have had security already being invaded by the nuclear nation, Russia. They already have those in place. So since they're not real, all we have is the munitions and weapons coming in. Now, with that said, our friend here, Boris Johnson, Great Britain former prime minister, now basically on the way out, put an article out, and this was today. Boris Johnson said the West must be strong and the mealy-mouthed procrastination and end the mealy-mouthed procrastination and get Ukraine into NATO as fast as we can. The reason he said this is because all we're doing is embolden and strengthen the Vladimir Putin regime to continue their work. They're not concerned about weapons coming in. They would be concerned if NATO would say, Ukraine, you're in and we're coming. He says, and he believes, and I agree with him 100%, Putin would not go nuclear. He would take his tanks and he would go home and look for another day to fight. And the world could try to restabilize a very destabilized situation. Boris Johnson, 100% correct. Unfortunately, he is the only person, and now he has no position, he has no authority, but he is the man that knows how to say the direct thing the right way. The President of the United States can't do it. Schultz can't do it. Macron cannot do it. Zelensky can do it. Great speaker, knows how to speak boldly, but irrelevant. These massive superpower world leaders are silent when it comes to straight, strong talk. And that is the only thing that Russia will understand and Putin will understand. Now, I can prove that to you tonight. I've got a little Putin here for you. This is Putin with a quick comment after hearing the news about NATO. Very happy. Ukraine's not coming into NATO. He doesn't care about the weapons. He doesn't care about any of that. Ukraine is not going to be a member of NATO. He's happy. What is his response? Take a peek at this. This is Putin, and this should validate exactly what Boris Johnson is saying.
Therefore, in regard to this NATO stuff, I don't see anything good in this. Our position is well known, and we formed it a long time ago. And as for the supply of weapons, we see how many hopes that they have placed on the supply of long-range missiles. Now, of course, they cause damage, but they do not cause anything critical on the battlefield for us. Also, the same story with the foreign-made tanks, and additionally also combat machine infantry. And just yesterday, 311 Ukrainian tanks were destroyed, and we even got 5 Leopard tanks also. So there's the situation.
Okay, we got 311 tanks, and actually 5 of those were Leopards, whatever. That's not important. Of course, those numbers are fantasy and fiction, but the truth is in what he said. We're not worried about them getting longer range weapons. We're not worried about anything. A few tanks, a few missiles, no problem. Why? Because Ukraine is not in NATO. Boris Johnson being exactly spot on, bold as a lion. Unfortunately, no position. Very, very sad. In addition to that, the holding over the head of the mining of the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, the mining of the Titan chemical plant down toward the northern section of Crimea, these places that are fortified, and Russia is using them as not only for Ukraine a trouble, but also for the world. It's like attempting to hold the world hostage. We have control over this nuclear power plant. We will do what is necessary to make sure that our people there in that occupied territory, meaning Ukraine, in our territory, we will do whatever to liberate them and set them free. That's the message from Putin, Russia, Kremlin, the propagandist, and the other leaders there, and the military of Russia. So what happens after NATO saying no? Putin gives his response. Lavrov, he also, I'm not showing that video tonight, but Lavrov come out and said, great, no problem. We'll actually be happy to talk with NATO in the future, but you're not going to have Ukraine in NATO. If you want to end the war right now and have the territory come to us, and then we can work out something and negotiate with Ukraine directly, we'll deal with that. But Ukraine is not coming to NATO. All NATO did over the last few days was confirm what Russia is saying. Doesn't matter, they said, after the war. Folks, think about that phrase, after the war. I have a question for you. What's going to be left after the war? If it continues the way it is, nothing but scorched earth, because Russia will continue to grind it inch by inch. Now, this is what the propagandists were talking about. After the no from NATO, they continue to talk about Zaporozhye nuclear power plant and calling on Ukraine to negotiate directly with Russia. Here it is.
You guys in Ukraine have no other choice now but to negotiate with Russia, because we can still understand each other. These agreements may have some sense. But then you can negotiate with the West, but you have to formulate your position. And if you think that you will continue to play, give us weapons, and take us there, then you must now realize that they will give you weapons, but they will kill Ukrainian people in doing that. We will have to fight for our safety. You will get nothing if you do not negotiate with us. Of course, they were lured with the nuclear card, this nuclear plant. They have sensed this danger, all of them walking around in their black suits. All of them understand perfectly, well, that if Zaporozhye nuclear power plant explodes, some people may assess, for example, Medvedev's words as some kind of daredevilism, but we will have no other way out. And then what will be left of Europe? These guys have finally realized it, and they understand only the language of force. We sometimes talk to the general, and I have great respect for him. There's no need to talk about withdrawing from any nuclear agreements, and I can say that's the only thing that can scare them.
So, folks, there you have it. That is the talking heads tonight. They're saying exactly what Boris Johnson said. We say, hold on, they're on different teams. Yeah, they are. They're saying the same thing. They're saying NATO said no. Okay, Ukraine, you have to negotiate with us. You're not going in NATO. You can get all the weapons you want, but we have the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Boris Johnson, very clear and very accurate. The only way to deal with the bully is to be strong. Put Ukraine in NATO immediately and say, let's go at it. And watch what'll happen. I believe he's exactly right. Not only Boris Johnson, folks, but General Zaluzhny. This is his picture here. There's also a picture there of the beaches outside of Sevastopol down in Crimea. Zaluzhny coming out today and very directly saying, we will not fall to the pressure of the West. You said no to us on coming into NATO until the war is over. So now we will say no to you. We will not negotiate for Crimea. We will not negotiate for any of our land. And I can show you that right here. All of this stuff that is in the red, including Crimea, is non-negotiable. This land must come back into Ukraine. United States can't tell us what to do. Germany can't tell us what to do. We are thankful for everything. We're thankful for everything that you're doing to help us, but we will not give up our land, and I will fight. In fact, General Zaluzhny here was saying that he actually was 6 months away from retiring and was thinking of retiring and going on into the latter phases of his life when the war broke out. And you see where he's at now. He says now, committed till the end, and the end will be victory. So that's where Zaluzhny is, basically saying the same thing as Boris Johnson. Folks, this war is not going anywhere anytime soon. Now, with that said, those are the weapons that have been coming. Very thankful. Folks, we live in a completely different world now. It's actually very sad. This is some graphics of defense budget spending globally. If you look at the image here, of course, you see the United States, which just approved their new budget, $876 billion in defense, ranking number one. China, $292 billion. Russia, $86 billion. Ukraine, $44 billion. They're in the red. France, 53, UK, 68, Germany, 55. Look at Saudi Arabia down there, folks. 75 billion in defense. Saudi Arabia, India, 81 billion. Australia, 33 billion. So you can see it's no bueno, folks, the world in which we are living. In addition to that, I've got this graphic for you. Ukraine increased their defense budget, military spending, by 640%. Other nations such as Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Belgium, Netherlands have increased, while some nations that are kind of out of everything, like the Brazils and the Kuwaits, Mexicos, Thailands, and it's interesting, Turkey, 26% decrease in military spending. That's kind of interesting. But that's where we're at. We're living in a world that is just chaotic. Speaking of that, talking about the chaos, I actually have a video here tonight of the grannies of Russia. These ladies have become famous ever since the beginning of the war. Now, they may not be famous to you if you cannot understand the Russian, but these ladies are basically mouthpieces. They're always there. They use them as entertainment, but they try to give a message out. Talking about the madness of the war and some of this, the madness of this world with the increases in the amount of money that is spent on defense. Here we are in probably one of the most dangerous times in the history of the world. It's just a fact. The increases, and we have crazy things like the grannies of Russia. What on earth is this world coming to?
Here's a message to American people.
Обращение к американскому народу.
Friends, we worry about your future because it seems to us hopelessly and pleasureless.
Мы очень переживаем за ваше будущее, ведь оно безнадежно и безрадостно.
We tell you face to face you should get off of sleigh, worry at least.
Говорим вам прямо в лицо. Вам необходимо освободиться от рабства наконец-таки.
Your leaders lead you right to hell.
Ваши лидеры ведут вас прямо в ад.
So you should get rid of Democratic spokes at next elections in November.
Поэтому на ближайших выборах в ноябре избавьтесь от представителей Демократической партии.
There is no place to Hillary in American policy anymore.
Хиллари Клинтон не место в большой политике.
Russia led by Vladimir Putin, and he is true son of his race.
А Россию возглавляет выдающийся сын нашего народа Владимир Путин.
So there you have it, the grannies. And you may say, man, why do you even show that? Because, folks, I want you to understand something. They use these ladies as propaganda. The other thing is very interesting. And do some introspective looking here. How many of you know when the next American election will, when the next Russian election will be? Correct. How many of you can speak two languages fluently? You just saw these grannies. That lady's English was very good. And of course, she speaks Russian. These ladies are not dumb. They may be blinded, but they're not dumb. They know American politics, speaking about our elections next November. Let me tell you something. These guys are pushing for a change. They want America to go conservative, hard conservative, knowing that even more support at that point will probably be eliminated from the equation for Ukraine. And that's even what others were talking about. And Jane and I were talking about on the update. Was it Peter Pavel from the Czech Republic saying you have 1 year, because once the end of 2024 gets here, the world's going to change. So Ukraine, you have 1 year. I support you 1,000,000%. You have 1 year. And then the support probably is not going to be at the place it is now. These Russian grannies, they know. But folks, think about this. This is the world in which we live. The social media, the chaos and the madness, the defense spending, the threat of nuclear, weather's crazy. This is a very interesting time in history to be alive. Now, I told you I would be talking to you tonight about the Motherland Statue in Kyiv. Here you can see a beautiful image of that statue. Let me explain this to you. This statue stands on a little hill. I've been there at the foot of that many times. It is overlooking Kyiv, and of course supposed to be overlooking Ukraine. You can see the beautiful Ukrainian flag to the right of it. They also have the ability to light it up, of course, with technology now. It is made out of steel that actually came from Zaporozhstal, which was the Zaporozhia steel plant. It's beautiful. In fact, for July the 4th, they had lit it up in the colors of the American flag. So for that, we're very thankful and appreciative. But there's a problem with that statue. There's a big problem with it. And it's going to be remedied by private businesses paying for it. And I think it's supposed to happen by mid to the end of August. But if you look closely here on the shield, I'm zoomed in now on the shield, you can see, of course, the hammer and sickle. This statue was built in 1981 during the height of the Soviet Union as a tribute to the motherland. You can see the hammer and sickle there. So now it's going to be replaced. And you may say, well, what's is it going to be replaced with? And folks, this is a big deal in Ukraine. They want this symbol off of that statue. When you fly into Kyiv, when the airport's working, and you just drive through the city, you see this statue dominating, just overlooking. It's so, so beautiful. So what's it going to look like? This is what it's going to look like. Take a peek at this. Of course, that's a rendering, computer rendering, but that's what it's going to look like. They're going to redo the shield. They're going to take off the hammer and sickle, and they're going to put on the symbol of Ukraine there. So very, very cool. That's going to be changing. Now, a couple of other things I want to draw your attention tonight to, and that is Ukraine. That headline right there in Ukrainian says, the winter is going to be very difficult, more difficult than last year. When I'm there traveling and working on the front lines, I like to go in the winter, the late fall, because it's the hardest time of the year. No power. The power goes out more because of the draw on the heating systems. 271 thermal plants have been taken out of commission. Ukraine's saying they will not be repaired. There's no way we can repair them before next winter. And if Ukraine is not struck by even one more shell, the war ended today. Our winter would still be very difficult in regard to power and heat. So folks, they're talking to Ukrainians saying, get ready and be prepared. Make sure you're buying now power banks, blankets, ways to heat, ways to give you light. Be thinking ahead because the winter is going to be very difficult. You may be out there tonight going, well, I don't understand why they would lose heat. 271 thermal plants. Let me explain to you guys tonight how this works here. I'm going to go to the map, and of course, here is Ukraine. I'm going to zoom into our home city of Khmelnytsky right here. And when I zoom in, I'm going to show you what we're talking about here. We're on the satellite look. Let me orient myself real quick here. Okay, so this is basically the center of Khmelnytsky. And I'm going to zoom into a building over here. I was actually at this building when I was just there. So if I come down and show you guys this, I want you just to look. Do you see all of these buildings that create a square like that? You see all that? Now, many, many people live here. These buildings here are 9 and 16 stories tall. And they surround this courtyard. And it's right in the city. And this is the way the infrastructure is. This is just an example I'm showing you. But right here in the middle of these buildings, you see this building here? Look at this. Do you see the stack here? Right there. It's a stack. What is that? Well, that's a thermal plant. These are what are being destroyed, what are destroyed, and what will continue to be destroyed throughout Ukraine. That one thermal plant right there will heat and provide heat for not only that rectangle building, but this entire zone here. And when those go out, there's no heat. These are centralized systems. So that is what is being referred to there. I hope that helps you understand when Ukraine says we've lost 271 thermal plants. They're not going to be repaired, and it's going to be a difficult winter. Additionally, looking down toward Novakhovka, if I go back to the maps here and let me zoom out, let's take it to this map view and let's come down here. Of course, we're talking about all of this region here. Here's Kherson. This is the Dnipro River. This is the left side of the bank that Russia controls. This is the right side of the bank that Ukraine, which is Ukraine. I was going to say Ukraine controls, which they do, but it's Ukrainian sovereign territory, as well as this side as well. Up here is where the Novakhovka Dam was. It was blown, coming down throughout this region, and even up above. This entire reservoir here is gone. It's dry earth now. A little bit of water filling back in, but Ukraine giving an update today. These are things that we do not think about. The amount of dead fish laying on the riverbanks. They released a thing today that just said this entire region, and I'll go back to the map here, but this entire region reeks, smells terribly from the stench of dead fish. And in addition to that, these are things we don't think about, but in addition to that, 85 fish farms have been destroyed due to the Novakhovka Dam being blown. You're talking about a lot, an ecological disaster and food production disaster. It's a big deal, folks. So those updates came out from Ukraine today. Well, one more thing for you tonight. That's Prigozhin. We've got confirmation now that he is in Belarus. That's his little camp there. He's in his little bed. And Wagner PMC is in Belarus. I'm not going to say all of them, of course, because they're all over the world. But Wagner has rotated in, and they are training Belarusian forces. When the Wagner rolled in, the Russian forces rotated out. So now we have Russian forces that were in Belarus rotating around to help in the war on the front lines, because they've basically been resting in Belarus. And Wagner, now being in Belarus, is training Belarusian soldiers. And you may ask tonight, okay, man, how do you know they're there? Because you said a few nights ago nobody knew where they were. Well, a few nights ago nobody did know where they were. But today we do know. Prigozhin in Belarus, Wagner in Belarus. I'm going to prove it to you right now.
Several training camps have been deployed today at the firing range near Hasipovichi. The most interesting are tactical firing and how to do battlefield movement. Trainees are conscripts from territorial defense units, and the main thing is the training instructors are the fighters of the Wagner PMC, who passed on their combat experience to the Belarusians. The practice of territorial troops in the widest, from strengthening the protection of the state border to the protection of important facilities in the region, such as factories, enterprises, power plants, water utilities. The instructors from Wagner PMC tell the nuances of difficult conditions and emergency situations. It's very interesting to listen to. They have been in combat operations, and this is undoubtedly very useful for us and to give us experience in the Belarusian army, because we have not participated in military operations since the end of the Afghan war. There's no doubt about the qualification and training of the Wagner fighters. Training is based on personal experience and real combat situations. People are very educated. They know their business. They know what they are doing. They can teach us a lot. It's a very useful tool. I will be assisted by this piece of equipment, that is, I will be assisted by it. Therefore, it should be properly organized. There are many nuances. It is immediately obvious that these people are true combatants. They have participated in combat operations necessary to hold these events. The more frequent, the better for us. We are motivated, that's for sure. We're ready to defend our homeland.
So there you have it, folks. You see, Wagner's there. That was Belarusian State TV. That came out today on Belarusian State TV. Wagner there training Belarusian forces. And this is what we heard weeks ago that would be happening. And now we see that it is happening. So, folks, that's where we're at. I'll do another quick check here. Zaporozhye and Mykolaiv. Air defense is working. Shaheed drones. Zaporozhye, Kherson, Mykolaiv. Those are the places that are being hit right now. So, folks, thank you for being here. Thank you for continuing to like and support, share, subscribe, give, donate. We're doing our best to stick to the powers that have been given to us by God, and the powers that are inside the human spirit. I encourage you, to stick to it. Don't give up. You've been equipped by God. You've got humanity on the inside of you. 506 days. And that's the reason I made that statement that's on the inside of us, because it's a long time. 506 days. If you're here and you're new, just go back to the YouTube channel and scroll back. You'll see. Here from day one. And we will continue to be here because we made a commitment. This is my second home, 26 years working there, and we will continue to stand with Ukraine. Folks, we're not just standing with Ukraine, we're actually standing for what is right. Because if nobody stands for what is right, everybody's going to fall. So, stand. Be thankful for what you have. Be thankful that we serve and have a good God, and we have a good spirit that is put on the inside of us to be who He's called us to be. And not only that, you're humans, and we understand innately what is right, what is good, and what is evil, and we stand for what is right. So thank you. As always, we will be back with you on Monday, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with the next update. Unless something happens before then, we'll be here. And when I mean something happens, something's happening 24/7, but major updates that you need. You guys be blessed. Have a great weekend, and we will see you on Monday, if not before. Good night.